Microphone check, check, check. Monday Quality Talks, number 37. We are back. We are back, family. We are back. How y'all doing? I hope that you have had a great, great weekend. Sorry, let me just make sure that the sound is working. That's right. Um, and that your week started well. Uh, be very welcome. For those of you who have just subscribed to the channel, welcome to my channel. This is the Monday show. I have two. I have one on Fridays as well called Quarantine Grooves. But for those who are aficionados, for my Bodhists, uh, you already know what's going on here every Mondays, or as many Mondays as I can, because obviously when I'm traveling, it gets a bit hard to do it from the different locations I might find myself in. But with that being said, look a bit red actually. Let me make sure that my image looks on point. Cannot be looking like a tomato. Come on, come on, come on, come on. Let me see this thing. Is it a saturation? Maybe a little less saturation. That's right. All right, might be better like this. But it is hot. Actually, I have the AC on. Alexandre Sanchez. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Much love back to you, and thank you so very much for the precious support. Make sure you comment, you drop in the comments. You know, it's about interacting with one another. And today, yes, I have no guests, so I'm operating the show from OBS instead of StreamYard. But yeah, and I wanted to talk about my recent experience as I was traveling. About 2 weeks ago, I went to the south of France. Actually, I've been traveling. You know, I've had since May. I've had about a show per month, and you know, it's definitely far from great as far as you know what we were accustomed to before COVID hit us. But yeah, man, it just feels like things nonetheless are starting to pick back up. You know, it's very, very slow. It's not the same conditions. It's not, you know, the same situations. But you know, there's a desire. There's a will to try to make things happen within the limits, you know, set forth by the whole, you know, pandemic that we're going through. But yo, it's clubbing back. I think it is to a certain extent. Today I'm going to make a very, very tight and concise show, so please apologize if you're catching up later on. I mean, you can always watch the replay, but you know, I'm going to get right at it because I want to keep it for an hour, and sort of like give you guys some of my experiences that I've had so far since I started gigging back in May. So basically what happened is that in May I went to Guinea-Bissau. Guinea-Bissau, it was my first gig in a year and in a good year and a half, almost a good year. So there I was already like blown away because there was just so many people, and you know, nobody wears masks. I mean, clearly, you know, I was the only one wearing my mask, and they were all looking at me like, well, what are you doing? And I was like, well, I mean, you know, I'm trying to protect myself at the time. You know, it was just, you know, yeah, not what we would see on the TV, right? We know you have all these different informations, and you just go on the continent back home, and it's like everybody's, you know, it could be considered rather unconscious in a way, but at the same time, it's like I still don't know where to stand on the topic because there's just too many layers. And yes, you can try to apply a very radical sort of like approach to the whole thing and say, well, no mask, no, but you can't impose these kind of measures on the African continent first and foremost because, first of all, the heat, right? And just because it is what it is, you know. We could get into the details of that later on, but I just want to get straight into the whole clubbing situation, which, you know, from what I've seen, you know, going to Senegal, Ivory Coast, And recently, friends, I had a private gig that I did with my good brother Olive, who's actually the cover of the show. Um, People are there. People are, responding present. And of course, you can sense that there's some distances, but at the same time, people want to hug and people want to, they want to connect. But there's just this sort of like strange feeling where you're not 100% comfortable. You're not 100% comfortable, and I think that clearly this is a situation where you know um, it's gonna take some time, um, and so by asking the question, I'm kind of like making a statement because I do think that to a certain extent, clubbing is back, and the more I listen to some people, like I'm talking to some folks, friends that I know from various countries around the world, and some of them were very responsible. Um, Still partied throughout the whole pandemic. Um, it just feels like some people just don't realize that this disease does exist. This disease is indeed very serious. It affects people in very different ways, and one has to be very cautious and understand that um, it's not to be taken lightly. Uh, I won't go into too much information on what I think of this, of that, and the other, because this has gotten a lot of channels blocked and banned and this and that. Like they double down on people trying to you know um, approach the topic from a very sometimes informed, actually most of the time very informed, and I'm not talking about those who are anti-vax, which I understand. I mean, not even anti-vax, they're anti-COVID-19 vaccine. Um, uh, but all of these considerations, I'm not really trying to tap into those. But Hal said too, thank you very much. Yes, I'm good. I'm good. I'm good. Thank you for tuning in and listening in while working. So basically, as I was starting, I said 2 weeks ago, um, I was in the south of France in Saint Tropez. I had a gig in Toulon, which is about an hour and some minutes away from Saint Tropez, and I decided to stay a couple of extra days. Hang out with my brother from another Olive. Haven't seen him in over a year. So it was just a great opportunity for us to just chill and hang out and check out what's going on. And it so happened that around the same time I was there, there was a lot of things happening. There was a couple of guys from the scene that I know, Bob Sinclair, Omar FNX, and some people that I didn't know of or that I'd never met. But it was important to meet and just connect with because they know of my work and that I didn't know until I got there. So I got there on Wednesday afternoon, I think. Yeah, Wednesday afternoon, boom, Olive picks me up in Marseille. You know, we drive straight to the hotel, drop off the all our stuff. And we go straight for some food. Nice restaurant by the beach, very very cool vibe. Um, then we go to the venue, check it out. Look at what's gonna happen for the in terms of equipment, etc. etc. Kind of like a little bit of recognition of the environment and understand like check out the venue basically because the event is the next day on Thursday. So the next day on Thursday we got a lunch. We invited at this venue in Saint Tropez, and we're meeting up with this DJ who's big DJ who's in the DJ resident scene and a guy that's really been supportive of my work through the years I didn't know of. So got to the spot, Verde, a restaurant, really really dope by the beach. In Saint Tropez, and this was my first time in Saint Tropez. Like you've got to understand, in 20 years career, I've seen a lot of decadence and a lot of crazy stuff, but nothing compared to what I saw in Saint Tropez. Like, and nothing. When I say it's crazy without being crazy, it's like it's the display of wealth, which in itself is whatever, but at the same time, it's just not whatever. It's something else. I had not seen it displayed in such magnitude and full force before. Um, so we get there, we have lunch. Um, we just looking, and obviously you gotta present your passport, your vaccine passport or negative COVID test in order for you to enter. Um, and we just see, so you're wearing the mask just technically to enter, just go to your table, but then you remove the mask, and it's just so hot. You can't keep the mask on. I mean, you can eventually try to keep the mask on, but it's really, really, really hot. Anyway, we check him out. We have good food. He starts DJing. And you can feel this vibe that people are willing to dance. But at that point, everybody's seated and everybody's eating, so all good. Eventually, we bounce. We go back to Toulon. Perform at that private event. And then the next day, Friday, we kind of do the same thing. We go back again to Saint Tropez. We had several meetings, and I got to see a couple of really, really dope venues. So on Friday, I was in my friend Omar FNX, who's also a DJ producer, was performing at a venue called Shelona. Dope spot. I mean, really, really, really top venues. And so I'm looking at the programming, and I'm like, damn, the lineup is, pretty serious. Like, they got the guys of kind of music, like Rampa, Enemy. For those of you who are not into the DJ world and stuff, like, those are really, really remarkable names from the scene, and guys and gals that are doing, really, really good things musically. And I was like, wow, I didn't know Saint-Tropez was really happening like that. But it was explained to me that, because Ibiza is pretty much not necessarily moving at all, or very, very, very limited way, Saint-Tropez kind of like took over. And so, we get there, Omar is having lunch, and we wait for him to get behind the decks, and the resident. So bear in mind, for me, I'm entering a venue. I don't even know. I don't like. It's not like even if I care if people know me or not, because it's not even about that. I'm just there trying to understand what this place is, because I've heard so much about Saint-Tropez, and I'm just really, really, genuinely curious. My dog is acting up. I don't know why, but anyway. And so I'll get there, and the DJ sees me, so automatically the way he looks at me, I'm like, oh, okay, all right. Well, he recognized me. All right, cool. Hey, checks me, check him out, check him back. Then with both of the DJs, and I was really surprised, because I was like, in my mind, because I was people presented Saint-Tropez to me as, the nec plus ultra of, commercialism and, stress and other bling bling and champagne and caviar. There's that as well, but I just didn't know that there's also an understanding of the culture from some of the people, if not a lot of the people, or at least the DJs there understand and knows who's who eventually. So I was really, really impressed by that. I was like, oh, okay, shit. I thought everybody was, it's just not what I thought. All right, cool. So the guys drops, a couple of my tunes, and I'm like, damn, wow. And it's interesting to see people, and not my most known songs neither. Like, you've got to really be a Boddhi Satva fan to understand the kind of. I mean, he went and picked up some records. Like, he played some Sage Monk. Sage Monk is my other production name, and basically the guy dropped this, and you can see the people moving, and I'm seeing all these tables. Like, so granted, you enter, you got to show your COVID test, etc., or your passport. So same thing applies. Nobody's wearing the fucking mask anyway, So everybody's, there at the table, and at their respective tables, food is coming in, bottles are flowing in, and I'm seeing these people dancing on music that I was told was never to be played, or never was going to be played in spaces like that. So basically Afro House or Afro Tech, or whatever you want to call it, but it's pretty much Afro House, and under many of the forms that it has. So I'm like, okay, I'm literally blown away, right? So up until that point, I'm discovering something that just blows me away. So the the um the guy finishes, Omar takes over, start doing his thing, did a dope set. Even though I was expecting him to play a little, maybe give a little bit more of movements to his set in terms of adding a little bit more of his sounds. He played some, but overall he did a great set, I think, for the crowd. I probably would have taken a bit more risks, but I was satisfied with what I heard from him overall. And as he's playing, you can see literally these people literally going off and crazy over on top of tunes that, I mean, dancing on tunes that you just like, okay, this is like a paradigm shift right there. Like, how the fuck have I been told this all these years? Not that I was dreaming to play in Central Place, never been like, like, but you've got to understand, right? When you're in a field of activity, there's always going to be people who are gatekeepers. People who may not believe in what you do, or may not believe in the type of songs that you playing, and yet you get there and you see, well, shit, y'all been telling me, well, I guess it's new, it's not been played before, but for the past probably year and a half or so, or before certainly COVID hit us worldwide, they probably started to get into this whole thing. So the Luna, justo. And so the shock is there, it's real. I'm literally seeing people going wild. Like, okay, cool. Omar does his thing, smoking a cigarette, having some, vin rosé, and I'm like, hey, people will be fly up in here, and it was just a good feeling. There was just this good vibe, and people were there with their kids, and it was just very, very, very interesting. But then there was this subtle but very serious display of wealth. Like, nobody, when I say nobody, had a watch on their wrist that was less than 50,000 euros. Not that I care, but I love watches, and I'm looking at them like, damn, I'm seeing models that I've never seen before. And I'm like, shit, oh damn. And I'm a big watch, shoes, cloth. I mean, I love these kind of things. It's, I have a passion for excellence in general, and I really, really try to dive in as much as I can, and sort of like strengthen my knowledge when it comes to these kind of things, because I just like them. And it's interesting to see all that with also some form of simplicity. There's obviously some cockiness that comes into play, but overall people were actually really cool. So Olivia and I, we're just chilling, and we stayed there for about 5 hours, I think. We're just there chilling and listening to him DJ. No, yeah, 5 hours. It's just a good vibe. They're treating us super well. So the day before we were at Verde, with Sebastian, and it was just like very interesting. The fact, the same reaction. He was playing these nice, some old school Boddhi Satva joints, and the people were reacting to those really, really well. And then following there, these guys could, and I'm like, okay, all right, I see the potential. I'm really looking at this from, as a student, right? You really put yourself in the position of a student, and you're studying. You're like, okay, I see. And so clearly, I'm starting to sense that, okay, this is a restaurant. It's not a club. So it's a restaurant that has it is small. It's not even a dance floor. You can barely dance. But, you can still be gathered around a DJ and groove and stuff. Dance on your table if you want. But there I'm starting to get the feeling that I'm like, okay, cool. I don't feel like COVID ever happened, There's a sense of carelessness, not in the sense of like, nobody cares, but yeah, at that moment, people were literally like, just having fun and enjoying themselves and, looking good and, living their best life, I guess you could say. So, you know, we drive back to the hotel, rest up, get some dinner, and then we go out again. Uh, Meet another guy with another DJ, and forgot the name of that venue. Really, really dope little spot in inside Central Bay itself, kind of hidden with really, really luxurious 80 people capacity. The guy is doing his thing. Um, and he takes us to another spot called Biblos Hotel, which is like one of those like super fine hotels. And I'm like, damn, okay, it's not the hotel. I'm not damn like because of the hotel. It's indeed beautiful. Not that I've seen, so nothing that shocked me because I've been at many throughout my whole career. But I'm like, okay, and I'm hearing the music in the background. I'm like, okay, this is really interesting. I'm starting to be very confused as to the kind of music these people are playing. As in, like, they're playing the kind of shit that I'm producing alongside many others. But it's like, I'm like, okay, cool. Again, you gotta understand. My whole paradigm is Central Pay super commercial. If you're not David Guetta or Armin van Buren or any of those big big names or Carcass or whatever or whatnot, you won't be playing there. They won't be playing that kind of sound. This is called lounge or whatever kind of music these people would say. So I'm like, have they been lying to me? So okay, cool. Anyway, we get there. Same thing. We meet with some other DJs, etc. And we start talking, getting to know each other, and then they're like, let's go to this other venue called La Cave des Rois, which is underneath the hotel. Same thing, COVID test. You can literally do your test right then and there and get your results in order for you to enter, or if you have your vaccine passport, you show it to them, whatever. We get there, and that's when I really was like, okay, I was not prepared for that. I really wasn't. That venue, it's inside, right? So it's enclosed. There's a lot of air, it's fresh air. You can feel that it's fresh air. It's very well air conditioned, etc. But people are partying like before fucking COVID, and I'm like, I got a bit anxious because I'm not used to having that many people around me. So I'm like, somebody's gotta really explain to me what's going on here. So again, in that club, fully commercial music, well, some mixture actually, some they were playing, not necessarily underground, but some nice. It wasn't cheesy commercial. Some of it was cheesy, but majority of the joint was actually listenable, and it was it didn't bother me. Not that my point of view count anyway, but and you're like, wow. You see and you see all these kids, these young kids, the new clubbers, right? And you're like, okay, cool. I have not been prepared for what I'm seeing. Not only because it was packed, but it's because it's a completely different environment. I don't know how to explain to you, but even though I've been doing this for all these years, nothing prepared us for this global pandemic, and nothing prepared us for things to kind of like sort of come back to some sort of normalcy. It's not yet there, but it looked like a world out. It looks like a world outside of the world, And I was amazed. I really was amazed that I got a bit overwhelmed, so I had to put myself on the side and just we were Liv was hanging out, some people were talking business, etc. So all right, cool, man. I'll let you do you, bro. I'm waiting on the side. And it's interesting. You see all these celebrities and stuff. It's like everybody's having their fun, right? That's still a shock because I'm just not used to seeing that many people in one space. Eventually, I was like, look, man, I can't deal with this anymore. and we bounce because it's heavy for me. It's too much. So we will leave. So we go to another spot, VIP, the VIP club. So I've always heard of the VIP club. Is Jean Rock is a famous in France. It's like he's a really famous event promoter, club owner, event producer, etc., etc., restaurant owner. Like this guy's and very very successful. Um, some may say he's an asshole, some say he's not. Whatever. I mean, the guy is very successful at what he does and what he's been doing, and his clubs have been successes. And so the the way there, we passed by those boats, all these yachts, right? That are, we said pretty much, I guess. Luna, lá na companhia, na companhia, na companhia, 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 lá, companhia, companhia, companhia. Ici, d'accord. But yeah, it's very cute. And Central Place is really tiny. It's not that big, but you see all these massive yachts, and it's like, wow. I remember watching. I don't know if any of you watched a French movie called Les Gendarmes en Balade, with Louis de Funès, and if you've watched it, Les Gendarmes à Saint-Tropez, it's like those are movies that I watched as a kid. So, to see, obviously it's not that Saint-Tropez back then is not the same nowadays, obviously, but it still is very interesting to just see something that you've been seeing on TV as you were watching movies as a kid. Even though, again, as I said, it has nothing to do with what it was, 30, 50 years ago. So we get to the spot. So, okay, same thing. So eventually you eventually see, because, all these super rich people and wealthy folks, etc., kind of like go from one spot to another, right? So you eventually see some of the similar faces that you've seen the day, earlier during the day at the other venue. And so, people are like, hey, what's up? Hey, yeah, so cool, whatever. And so, yeah, like any of these bottle services type of clubs, there's this big line and security, is there, doing the job. All of them Senegalese brothers, and I was, again, same thing. I'm seeing all these people trying to get in. So I don't like fucking queues. Like, I guess nobody does. So I'm not a diva, but I was just like, I can't deal with this shit. But anyway, I guess we're gonna have to. So we waited about like 5 minutes, time for us to get in, and then no issues. We got in, no problem. They knew, leave, and they're like, all right, cool, we got in. And so we go check out the VIP, and it's interesting because I've heard all of these comments about the VIP room in Saint-Tropez, and when I got there, I was like, oh, okay. So musically, we were right into the type of thing that people told me Saint-Tropez was. So that matched the image that people depicted for me, as in, like, the kind of music that you do and the kind of sound that you produce will never work in Saint-Tropez. I could definitely understand that when we got into this venue, so that was like, okay, I guess more normal compared to what I'd experienced before during the day and the evening. And so, we didn't stay too long, just, shook hands, a couple of folks, and, we bounced back, went to rest. And Saturday was a pretty chill day, no biggie. Sunday is when, I was, we went to Nikki Beach, see my friend Bob Sinclair, who was performing. He was also celebrating the birth of his daughter. And so we got to the venue, and, cool music, Sneaky Beach, mainstream, music, EDM. I mean, it was more house than EDM, but it was a mix of everything. Raphael, what it do? Welcome. As I'm talking, sorry, man. Oh, guys, welcome to the show. This is MQT number 37. you already know what to do. This is your show. Make sure you support it. Press the like button. I want to see those likes up, and I want to see if you feel like it, some donations. Make sure you do that via the super chat, or you can send that via PayPal. Better yet, you can go on my website boddhi-satva.com and order yourself some merch. That would be actually a cool thing, because you are going to be joining the Boddhiist community, which is one that you definitely want to be part of. And so we go to Nikki Beach, and it's like, all right, cool, nice. All the tables are there's not a table that's empty. And so we get to the VIP section. Well, everything is VIP, but like there's VIP of the VIP, right? The VVVIP. So when Bob Sinclair is DJing, there's that super VIP section, right? So tables there are just like, but I'm getting there. So I wouldn't be able to tell you the price of the tables, because I don't know them exactly, but I do know that we're over the 50Ks, all around that kind of price bracket, and you see just a display, and that's where I saw like the most impressive display of just money. People just doing their thing, living their best lives, whether some of them were, you couldn't tell who was what or from what. Everybody was like, dressed to impress. I've seen kids of 14 years old, young boys and girls with Rolex, with diamonds, Audemars Piguet, and I'm just like, fuck, man, this is a different reality. And some of these kids look so fucking blasé. It was sad, It's like, dude, y'all have like watches worth probably $200,000 on your wrist. You don't even know the value of this shit, or you probably know, but you don't probably care. Who am I to judge? I'm not judging, but I'm just observing, and I'm just like, yeah, there's just too many things conflicting. Not conflicting in a bad way, but I'm just like, interesting. I sound like somebody who had never gone out, right? I sound like somebody who's never played for any VVIPs. I've played with VVIPs. I've played, for super, super VIP people. But these kind of VIPs that I played for, I played on yachts, very subtle people. You don't see no display of wealth like that. The only thing you might see is the private jet or the yacht. But outside of that, there's nothing extra. Anyway, so Bob Sinclair starts playing. As he gets towards the end of his set, he drops one of my tunes, Anuale, the Studio Bros remix. And again, shock value. He drops it at the perfect time, perfect coordination from one super mainstream tune, well, not mainstream, but like, big room and very like the kind of tune that people would know, playing Anuale. As it drops Anuale, people just, you could sense that the energy was completely different from everything that he had played, even though everything was very well, arranged and chronologically put. There was a different energy about that music, obviously. Not because it's done by me, but because the kind of music, Afro House and Ancestral Soul is just a different kind of energy. And it was amazing to see just these faces changing and just people like grooving and vibing. And then he transitioned out with Well Hold On, one of his biggest hits. I suppose the original song, but like it had like a different edit. And that was just a reminder that if you know how to play your records well, you can literally play anything in your set. And Bob Sinclair, being, the amazing DJ that he is, showed that. And so I'm looking at all of these things that I was told through the years, about some of these, like, Central Pay, all of these. And I'm just like, some things are just, yeah. it just blew my mind, and it was such a beautiful wake up call for me because it made me understand a lot of things. You might not get it, you might get it, but yeah, finishes. He takes his helicopter, goes and DJ here. That's it. That night he had to play in Monaco, so he leaves. Then we go to the next venue, and David Guetta was playing, and we got there, and different vibe, different vibe. Even though he didn't play under his name, David Guetta, he played under his other moniker called Jack Back, where he plays a bit more underground, more B-sides. It's a completely different vibe. Like, not in a bad way. Like, the music that he played was really cool. I was actually surprised, to be honest with you. I was not that I had any expectations, because I really went there with an open mind. But yeah, man, like, insane to see again, I've seen bottles as big as I am. I mean, a little less, but like really massive bottles. People buying them just to spill them over people, and it was just like, it's been a while since I've been in this kind of environment. And when I'm in this kind of environment, usually it's not on that scale. It's not on the scale of 150 tables, or a little less. So, no, about 100 table. Or is it less than 100 table? Probably around that number. Anyway, it doesn't matter. What matters is that the amount of people having fun and living their best lives was just amazing. Again, you have to present your COVID test or your passport, your vaccine passport. But all that to say that, yeah, I was like, yeah, clubbing is back, but it's back in a different way. It's not. Obviously, if you look back at the Big Bros Club where I was on Friday with Olive, yeah, that was clubbing as we knew it. But what it felt like when I went to those, but it was nothing. It was cool, but it was not crazy. It was crazy, but I wasn't surprised as I was on Sunday in those two different venues, because the setting, we're talking about restaurants here. For example, the Verde's restaurants and very, very fine cuisine, excellent, and there was no dance floor. Once again, people are dancing at their tables. And it's just amazing to just see that, after all this time. And it gives you some hope. So, yeah, clubbing is back, but it's back differently. Even the way the business is taken care of has nothing to do with what we used to know. Well, it still has, but it's not the same. There's a shift in paradigm and generation. There's different approaches to the whole booking, and by booking I mean artist bookings, as in if I wanted to play there, it's not through your regular circuit. It's a complete different environment. Yeah, a big part of this whole thing was networking as well. Like, what's up, guys? So yeah, I'll be playing the music. That's amazing. Let me just show face and support. And that really was mind blowing. Eventually that's what it was at the end, because at first I was just checking it out, but then I realized that these people, like, they were playing my music and stuff, and I was like, wow. Yeah, so when you see that, when you see the kind of access this gives you, because you've got to understand, when you play as a resident DJ in this kind of venues, you have access to very, 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 very select points. The how do you call the 1%? These are even less than 1%. Some also in some of those places, and those are very expensive spots. Not everybody's willing to give them, and nobody's going to give them away, especially if that's where they're making their bread. Um, and I think that's ultimately these kind of small communities will spread out throughout the world, where everybody's going to be running events for their communities. Wherever you are, there's going to be these like little pockets where it doesn't have to be the 1%. It's just in general, but I'm giving that example because I was impressed to see that clubbing was happening at that level in France. And even though Saint Tropez is known to be a different environment, it's Saint Tropez. It has nothing to do with the rest of France, I guess, because indeed it's in parallel in terms of the display of wealth and so on and so forth. But it felt good to be able to see that again after a good year and a half. Even though I've seen that in Africa, but Africa, I would say, made a little bit more sense because they've dealt with the whole pandemic in a different way. Supposedly less people died. Well, now with the new variant, it's not necessarily true. More people are dying. Then there's also now we're hearing about Ebola surging back in Ivory Coast, in some areas of Ivory Coast. I don't know how they're going to handle that, but um, yeah, it's interesting. We live in a very interesting time, um, and we're going to have a lot of stories to tell our kids and grandkids, and just people in general. There's room for creativity. However, I do think that one of the other problems that I noticed, and that I've noticed, obviously looking back at what I was doing back before the pandemic hit us, and even now as we are dealing with this pandemic, but people still sort of like living in this parallel world where there seems to be no COVID whatsoever, even though there is. But you know what I mean? It's like some majority of them are vaccinated. Some people are using fake COVID tests, trying to still get in, and if some of them probably get in, that's at their own risk. But bottom line is, there is there is a lack for a lot of these artists and DJs, in my opinion, of ingenuity in terms of looking beyond. Well, that's for any resident DJs, I would say, because it's a secure income, it's a secure revenue, and it's a very decent revenue. Those guys make good money. The spreading out of their resources is not necessarily optimal, in my opinion. And by that I mean, investing, probably the investing in real estate, most of them would probably consider doing that. But like just looking at other opportunities, other ways to use their creativity at their service, and to explore more. But I think this applies to anybody that is dealing with anything that's secure. I can definitely tell you that in my entire career, I have never had. The only time I had a secure revenue was when I had my residency in Qatar at the W Hotel years ago. Not that I wasn't making money regularly with the gigs, but I mean like having a payment, and a secure gig like residency. You breathe differently, for sure, but you also live a very different kind of life, in the sense that if you're not paying attention, you're gonna get comfortable, and getting comfortable can cost you a lot. And we've seen that with this pandemic. It costs a lot of people a lot of things. Cut our revenues by, for some people by half or by more than 90%, right? It's a lot of money. It's a lot of loss. But I think that as much as what I saw really inspired me, and I was really like felt really good to just be, able to experience that, because it shows that there's hope. It shows that no matter what we go through as humans, I think we're very much capable of, switching tables around and making things happen. Making things happen in a very positive way, and in responsible way, because again, it was interesting to see all these people, like, not interesting, but like they really are enforcing these things where it's like, if you don't have a negative COVID test, or a vaccination passport, you're not in. you know that was actually cool to see. But we're gonna have to accept the fact that, and governments needs to also make it more conducive for us to be able to work, because there is indeed a little bit of a double standard, and so one has to really be looking into these things accordingly, and seeing what can be done, because clearly there's a way to work within the limits imposed, and I think there's a lot of venues that are adapting, like UK, etc., etc. Everybody's trying to, like, make things work. But a lot of the things that we see on the news, when you go into the country itself, it blows your mind. It blows your fucking mind. Like, you're just like, all right, there's what you hear and there's what you see, and it's a different world, And I understand why, a lot of these countries don't want to advertise that, because at the end of the day, their people gotta live, and it comes with the probability that some may actually, die in the course of living or not. They may not die, but it's a bit crazy. But before they found that vaccine, everybody was like, oh, what are we going to do? We need to find a cure. They found a cure, and then boom. And of course, a lot of things can be questionable, and we should question things, and I think there's a lot of things that are questionable. But bottom line is that you've got to really look at what works for you, and understand that it might be filled with opportunities. Your choice might be filled with opportunities or obstacles, and as long as you're able to live with either one of those, and manage to make things happen within these realities that you are going to be experiencing, then you should be good. But yeah, man, it seems like clubbing is back, just not as we used to know it, but it's back. And I wouldn't even probably call it club. I think I would call it experiences. A lot of these things I think are going to become and go towards more the idea of experiencing a moment, experiencing something, because it is indeed an experience. Because at the end of the day, there's not like 1,000 people necessarily in these venues, but yeah, there's enough to have fun. There's enough to party and have a good time, but not at all cost, of course. And as much as we need to pay our bills, I know a lot of guys that are making plans, for them to get back into their DJ career, like, when it gets back to what it used to. I don't know about that. It probably will. I mean, when you see what I saw in Central Pay, you might think that everything could actually get back to some sort of normalcy. But Central Pay, dude. Like, Mykonos is Mykonos. Like, Ibiza is Ibiza. So you cannot generalize these very uncommon occurrences to the rest of the world. It's rather difficult. But I think that there's room for clubbing to be back. So yes, I would say clubbing is back. It's not exactly as we've known it, but people, as much as they forget, there's one thing that they don't forget, is how to have fun. And the having fun part, because of what we went through, might be different than what we've known, in the sense that might be a little bit more wild than it used to be, but nonetheless, it's gonna be what it's gonna be. So yeah, man, interesting. This said, I am going to continue doing my quarantine grooves, because I do think that that's part of just the bigger picture that I'm building with this platform, with this channel, with this show, with the Monday Quality Talks, etc. I think it's important to maintain regularity, continuity, and consistency. You know, um, I really have taken the measure of this impact on my life, the impact of this pandemic on my life, and I really was like, okay, cool, nice. Might not get back to work until 2022, maybe 2023. We're lucky. I've been very lucky to have one show per month since May, but I'm not waiting on any shows. I'm hustling, busting my ass, working hard, and making new music. As soon as I'm done with the show here with you guys, I'm gonna get back to the mixing, finalizing the mixing of the of my album Manifestation. It's been delayed a bit because I've had some personal situations here. Mother has been a bit sick, so you know, we've been busy with that. But it's a beautiful album. I'm excited about it, and I'm excited about what the future holds. When really do take very seriously this whole YouTube thing, and I know it makes a couple of people laugh, as a matter of fact, or some people give you that contemptuous look, like, oh, okay, you used to be this, now you're that. It's like, what are you talking about? Like. But I understand, it's very hard to explain to people how something works if in the first place they don't even understand what that is and how it is supposed to function and what are the applications of that. By the way, talking about all these new ways of making, art and creating art and making it available for people to purchase, etc. I published my first NFT. I listed my first NFTs on OpenSea. You might want to go check it out. OpenSea.io. You type Boddhi Satva, and you go to my gallery called Taza, and go check it out, man. There's some interesting pieces made by moi, and obviously there's a couple of pieces made by my eldest brother Boris, who passed away many moons ago. Yeah, check it out. If any of you are into the NFT and these kind of things, you might want to go check it out. Actually, I'm going to be doing a show on this whole thing soon. Might be doing that with Keisha, because he's the Don Data. He knows that better than I do, and it will be interesting to exchange on the topic with him and probably some other folks. I'll see how to put that together. But anyway, family, this show has come to an end, and I am extremely humbled and thankful that you guys have accepted to take some of your very precious some of your precious time, to check this hour of conversation with me, and I really appreciate those of you who are supporting the show with donations, with likes, sharing the show on your platforms. I really appreciate that a lot. It means a lot. It's encouraging me, and as I said, keep supporting your artists, because we might attempt to try to get back on the road, but it's definitely not the same conditions that we've known before. It's definitely not the same fees, etc. Normal. Obviously, we have got to adapt. We're able to make things happen, but we've got to also understand that as a whole, as a community, that these kind of things that we're building, and by we I mean it's not just me, it's Keisha and many others. We're building these platforms thanks to you and your support and your trust, to really provide something that is made with love and true dedication, and trying to always be creative with the content and with the type of guests and with the type of information that we share with you, and hopefully it's of interest and adds up, more than takes away anything. Well, if you can take away anything, it's got to be some positive energy and just a good experience overall. With that being said, it has been my utter pleasure to spend this time with you guys. Queens and kings, Buddhists, Don't forget to go to Boddhi-Satva.com, get your merch. And you still have a couple of seconds to make some donations via the super chats or PayPal, whatnot. Better yet, stream the music. Figure it out. There's so many ways you can support. Have a beautiful rest of your week, family. God bless. And see you next Monday.